You took a career criminal, a repeat sex offender like me, and turned my life around, convinced me to stop committing crimes completely, which I did. And I became a responsible member of the community, delivering food, going in and out of people's homes, schools, daycare centers. It was unprecedented for a parolee to get permission to do that. And I got it. And I didn't mess up. I didn't mess it up. I made the mistake of getting into a personal relationship out of work with I'm not going to lie to you. It was a gorgeous, stunning 25-year-old prostitute that fell in love with me. I'm human, I was lonely and I got involved with her and I had a living relationship with her. That was a mistake that I will never make again. I want to meet women at college. I'm going to go to college and meet a woman at college, or meet one at the fitness center when I go work out, or at the grocery store, or church, better yet church.
We are about to watch the parole revocation hearing of this Connecticut man who is a serial roach. Now, he hired a private attorney. We'll have to see how that works out for him. I'll unpack it with all the details at the end.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So we're here today for the revocation hearing. So we are all set to begin. Are you guys all set to begin?
We are.
Okay. Good morning. I am P.O. Meisier. I'm hearing examiner for the Board of Pardons and Paroles. This is a revocation hearing concerning Barchetta Anthony, number 071190. Today is July 18, 2024. Please state to me your full name and DOC inmate number for the record, sir.
My name is Anthony G. Barchetta Jr. My inmate number 71190.
You have counsel there with you. Can you please identify yourself for the record?
Of course. Good morning. James Mortimer, assigned counsel for Mr. Barchetta.
And we have the panel members. Can you please put your names for the record?
Jennifer Zaccaney.
Deborah Smith Palmieri. Nancy Turner.
And we have someone viewing. Identify yourself for the record.
Board Supervising Psychologist, Dr. Jan Walker.
Thank you. So as a violation has been established in this matter by way of a new criminal conviction, this hearing is being held pursuant to the regulations of Connecticut State Agency Section 54-124A J1-7D for the purpose of determining whether any mitigating factors should be considered in determining the proper sanction. Based on a finding of mitigation or lack thereof, I may recommend to the board re-parole date or no new re-parole date, or no parole date. Excuse me. The testimony at today's hearing will be taken under oath. So Mr. Barchetta, can you please raise your right hand for me so I can swear you in? You solemnly swear, so I'm sincerely affirm, as the case may be, the evidence you shall give concerning this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God upon penalty of perjury.
I do swear.
So this is now your opportunity to provide a statement to the board members in regards to any mitigating information you would like the board to consider and speak to your background and history. Do you wish to make a statement regarding your violation background and history at this time?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so you and counsel, if you'd like to say anything, this would be your time.
Thank you. Good morning, esteemed members of the board. Ms. Smith Mary, nice to see you again. And to the other members, very nice to meet you. My name is James Mortimer. I have the privilege of serving as assigned counsel for Mr. Barchetta with respect to this hearing. By way of brief background, there was some confusion with respect to the Office of the Public Defender, and that is how I became involved in this matter. And as such, I was appointed to represent Mr. Barchetta concerning this hearing, but I've known Mr. Barchetta for approximately 10 months at this juncture. And concerning Mr. Barchetta's last effort with respect to presentation of mitigation information, Mr. Barchetta is indeed an excellent writer, but he does have some issues with respect to verbal communications under pressure. With respect to the charge violations, I certainly won't endeavor to minimize Mr. Barchetta's culpability or dispute the violations of parole. I would point out, though, that with respect to the second charge relating to Mr. Barchetta's residence, Mr. Barchetta was not permitted to return to that residence, given that it was also the residence of the victim in this matter. As to the third violation, that offense alleged on March 10th of 2020 was nollied. Again, Mr. Barchetta doesn't dispute the fact that he failed to report he doesn't dispute that he used cocaine, and he failed to submit to a search. In terms of the underlying criminal offenses, I would like to just briefly address the 3 counts of promoting prostitution in the 3rd degree. Obviously, Mr. Barchetta began a romantic relationship with a prostitute. He profited off her prostitution. He opened up his home to prostitution, and he doesn't dispute any of that. He took responsibility for his conduct. He pleaded guilty. He was cooperative after some time, and I've spoken at length with Anthony over the past 10 months concerning his relationship with the victim in this matter. At its core, Anthony believed that he was keeping that victim safe to some measure by providing some structure, a structure wherein that victim would not overdose or potentially be hurt or harmed by a customer. She is, of course, she is certainly documented that she was suffering from addiction issues, and she was not doing well. And from what I hear, and it's tragic. I talked to Anthony about what if it was his sister, or what if it was a child. We've had these conversations in terms of really understanding kind of the greater impact of this kind of conduct on individuals, not only the victim, but those that surround them. And at the end of the day, Anthony explained to me that had he been in the foresight at that time and reflected on his actions, he would have made better efforts to get the victim into treatment. He would have made better efforts to get her some services with respect to mental health, legitimate assistance, so that this conduct would not persist. And I can say without a doubt, sitting here, that Anthony gets it. He understands that the victim was not truly safe. He was certainly not doing any favors. It's not a sustainable or desirable lifestyle. He's shown me that he's been remorseful for his conduct, not merely because of the consequences he suffered as a result, but because he understands that he took advantage of the victim, her situation, and that was to the detriment of society. Now, as to the applicable board policy concerning hybrid violations, looking at the subsection B3I, indicating that the end date for a period of special parole occurring after the discharge date on a new term of imprisonment, confinement should not exceed the new term of imprisonment and should be followed by re-release to the community supervision for the remainder of the period of special parole. That is, of course, unless, in which I would submit, there is not here present a history of present continuing violent behavior. I've received documents from the Office of the Public Defender. It's been an extremely long period of time since there's been some violent behavior involving Mr. Barchetta. Bad decisions, undoubtedly, but it's not continuing violent behavior. When I received this assignment, I saw Mr. Barchetta's criminal history and some convictions decades ago, and it was quite apparent over the course of the years since that he's largely been aging out of the criminal conduct. He's 64 years old now. He's been attacked twice by other inmates. Before I knew him, nothing since, but this is in relative recent times. As he continues to age, he'll invariably be more vulnerable to such, and the consequences undoubtedly will become riskier for Mr. Barchetta. As the board can see, Mr. Barchetta has a litany of health issues. Much appears controlled at this juncture, but I'm certainly concerned with respect to Mr. Barchetta's kidney disease and the cardiac history. There's obviously a relation between kidney and heart disease, and I am concerned for his greater health. Mr. Barchetta's medical records further evidence that he suffers from a large inguinal scrotal hernia that's been apparent for years and in need of surgery. And I've certainly seen it myself. This causes Mr. Barchetta palpable pain. He's gone to UConn for a surgery console and is frankly terrified of going under the knife there, given his experience at a console. But he needs a surgery. I would submit that his discharge to supervision would certainly facilitate such. The board has given Mr. Barchetta chances in the past. However, Anthony is out of chances at this juncture at his age, and he knows it. According to the Vera Institute, each year someone spends in prison cuts their life expectancy by approximately 2 years. I don't know how many years Anthony has left, but he still has some time to make something out of them. And I believe that's really sunk into Anthony during this period of incarceration. He As we submitted, he received a copy of his social security statement. He's essentially going to get no meaningful benefit from the work that he's done. He has to do something with his time left, or he's going to have no safety net and a litany of issues related to his aging and health. Anthony wants to build that up. He wants some sort of cushion. He doesn't want to be a drain on society. He's in terms of the documents submitted, he's ensured he has health insurance, that he'll have a driver's license to resume work as soon as he's able to after he's released. He now understands that he can't immerse himself in a romantic relationship, and we've certainly discussed that. He has a great deal to learn about the import of transparency with those that are trying to help him. As to Mr. Marchetta's support, the records indicate he has a sister, he has a priest, a son, 2 former attorneys, and quite obviously care about Mr. Marchetta, as well as myself. And I'll certainly do my best to connect Mr. Marchetta with Holly Wasilewski and other members of the reentry community when he's nearing release to facilitate his successful transfer back into society. From an educational standpoint, Anthony's 3 credits, but also 3 required courses, shy of his associate's degree. I submitted his most recent transcript. He's maintained over nearly a 4.0 GPA. He's really dedicated himself to education. As this board well knows, and as I've discussed in the context of commutations some time ago, there's certainly a correlation between educational attainment and a lack of recidivism. I believe it was a Emory University study that indicated that someone earning their associate's degree is 85% less likely to recidivate in the future. And my understanding is the remaining courses that Anthony still needs for his associate's degree is not going to be available anytime in the foreseeable future. They're required courses, not just merely credits that he needs, but he should be able to enroll in any state university and apply those credits to his degree. If there are 2 things that I've learned in my years of working with the incarcerated population, it's 1, that it's never too late to learn, and 2, that it's never too late to adjust one's trajectory. This was not I would submit, a particularly serious offense, and as the record's evidence, there have been no convictions for violent offenses for a very long time. Prior to the instant offenses, Mr. Marchetta had made great strides towards successful reentry into the community. He had taken a polygraph back in 2014, which he successfully, well, I don't want to say successfully, but not deceptively answered in such a manner that he was ultimately approved for being entrusted with delivering food to people's homes, where he was working at dining in Connecticut. He did so successfully for a substantial period of time, rising to their top driver. And no documented, I've received the records from dining in Connecticut, no documented or record indications even of any problems during the course of time in which Anthony was interacting with the public. We would submit that Anthony needs parole because of the resources. He needs a halfway house to get back on his feet. He needs the support of organizations like Rosales, whom Anthony has also reached out to ensure that he be able to resume treatment. And I would respectfully submit that Anthony can do this. It's quite apparent that where Anthony's received treatment, that Anthony has received treatment in the past, but did not necessarily internalize the entirety of what he was hearing or doing to the extent that he needed to. He's demonstrated his commitment this time around. Affording him this grace of supervised release would certainly facilitate his ability to do so. Obviously, public safety is a substantial consideration with respect to these decisions. And I asked, is the state of Connecticut, the people of Connecticut, safer with Anthony in prison for another couple of years to be released without the tools available through parole that have aided Anthony in the past in turning his life around? And I would submit not. Accordingly, and I would certainly ask Mr. Marchetta to speak to address the topics that we've discussed. I would ask that the board grant Mr. Marchetta this grace. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else you'd like to say before I make a recommendation?
I believe Anthony would like to briefly speak.
I have a brief statement I'd like to present to the board.
Go ahead.
Honorable board members and hearing examiner. After my release to special parole to a halfway house in Hartford, after serving a year for a technical violation in 2019. Upon my release in 2019, I found gainful employment with a local company, dined in Connecticut, moved into my own apartment in East Hartford, Connecticut, and I was even able to buy a new car from Enterprise Car Sales in January of 2020. That was the most success I've ever achieved in my entire life. And I did it with all the fantastic help and support of people like the Chrysalis Center Incorporated in Hartford and CRT, Community Renewal Team in Hartford, Connecticut, and also my parole officer and therapist with the Connection Incorporated. The Connection therapist approved me to take the job with Dine in Connecticut at 10 Farmington Avenue in Farmington, Connecticut. I was delivering food for them, going to people's homes, daycare centers, schools, hospitals, businesses, everywhere. And I had not one incident. I was given a bonus one time for continuing working with my car, a Mercedes Benz I had, when all the other drivers clocked out and went home because it was a blizzard. And I was the only driver that stayed on because my Mercedes Benz still gave me control in the snow. I was still able to continue delivering the food. And one woman praised me to the company because I had to get out of the car and walk up a hill in a blizzard so that she could get her order. After doing great for 8 to 10 months, working for a dine in Connecticut, I got lonely as I was working 7 days a week and had no time for dating. And since I was prohibited from using social media to meet single women, I started looking for love in all the wrong places. I started dating prostitutes. The mistake I made in my efforts, I reformed. I made a decision to reform after my July 3rd, 2003 conviction. I vowed to never commit another crime. And I went from 2003 to 2021 without getting convicted of a crime. That's 18 years straight. 7.5 years was out in the community. All I had was technical violations, and I regret those technical violations. When I came before the board for those technicals, the board was strict, admonished me, but at the same time encouraged me and motivated me to get back out and succeed. What's different now? My attorney recommended I tell the board what's changed. Well, my priorities, that's what's changed, my priorities. I want to finish college. I'm in college, 3 credits away from getting an Associate of Science degree in Business Administration with a 3.8 grade point average. And yes, I want to work so I can build up enough credits to retire. I also want to start my own business one day. And getting this business degree will make that dream a reality. One of the changes I made, one of the drastic changes I made over this 4 years that I've been incarcerated, I knew I had to change my mindset. Because I was out there, I was the poster boy for rehabilitation and reform. I showed the public why you, the parole board members in the Connecticut Department of Corrections, won an award, the MacArthur Foundation Award for criminal justice years ago, when Governor Malloy was the governor, because of your collaborative model. You took a career criminal, a repeat sex offender like me, and turned my life around, convinced me to stop committing crimes completely, which I did. And I became a responsible member of the community, delivering food, going in and out of people's homes, schools, daycare centers. It was unprecedented for a parolee to get permission to do that. And I got it. And I didn't mess up. I didn't mess it up. I made the mistake of getting into a personal relationship out of work with I'm not going to lie to you. It was a gorgeous, stunning 25-year-old prostitute that fell in love with me. I'm human. You know, I was lonely and I got involved with her and I had a living relationship with her. That was a mistake that I will never make again. I want to meet women at college. I'm going to go to college and meet a woman at college, or meet one at the fitness center when I go work out, or at the grocery store, or church, better yet church. So when I said I made a drastic change, I want you to know I listen to Christian rap music. When I was younger, I was a rapper. I almost went into the studio. I'm talented. And I switched my choice of music from regular rap to now I listen to Christian rap. Every morning, the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning here is I listen to 3 or 4 Christian rap songs. They're incredible. And I even practice rhyming some of them myself. And I'm actually good at it. The other inmates get impressed. They applaud me because I'm actually good at it. I can do it. I'm talented enough to do it. I memorize the lyrics and I do it myself. And it's helping me stay grounded. It's helping me become closer to my faith. I was raised as a Catholic in Wethersfield, Connecticut. I went to good schools. I had good parents. So I'd like to continue my statement. All the progress I've made over the past few years, I've taken Voices, domestic violence, short track program. And my clinician in the short track program, Sarah Slavinsky, licensed clinical social worker. I completed the short track on September 9th of 2022. She stated in her program synopsis, which I have here, right here. She stated in this program synopsis that prior to inclusion in the group, a static 99R was conducted and my score of 1 fell into the average risk category. She stated this is likely to be an accurate assessment of his risk of further problem sexual behavior. And on November 17th of 2021, I was seen by a psychologist at Walker, Jocelyn Cruz, who evaluated me. And here's the document right here. She removed the track 1 problem sexual behavior treatment program from my OAP and put short track, the 12-week short track, because she said you don't need a problem sexual behavior. So she changed it, and she's a psychologist. Okay, that's above a social worker. And I completed the short track program. And the clinician said that I acknowledged the sexually exploited behavior toward the victim, as well as my previous sexual crimes, and that I was aware of my cognitive distortions that I used to justify my behavior. And I was also aware of what emotional needs I was trying to meet with sexually exploited behavior. I identified external risk factors which put me in increased risk of reoffending, and I know the importance of avoiding them. I do know the importance of avoiding those risk factors. I'm not going to go around prostitutes. I'm not going to go around drug dealers or people using drugs. I'm not going to hang out with criminals and go around other criminals. I'm going to stay around good people, responsible members of the community that have jobs or are in college, doing things with their life. I know I can do it. I did it. I just did it. I was out 7.5 years on special parole before getting convicted of a crime. One thing I would like to ask for is so important is the Chrysalis Center in Hartford is an incredible program. They're saints. They have this big building on Homestead Avenue. And inside that building, you can go there anytime. Once I'm out, if I'm in the Chrysalis program, I can go there anytime, any day, 5 days a week, and sign in. And they have a computer lab where I can look for jobs. They have a culinary arts school in-house that I can take culinary arts to become a chef. They have case managers that will help me with anything I need. They help you with employment. They help you with housing. They help you with training. They got me Ocean 10 training. They got me forklift training. And I got jobs through a company, People Ready, in Hartford, operating a forklift. I got jobs working construction sites. I've done everything I could. I accepted responsibility by pleading guilty to charges I wasn't even charged with in 2021 because I wanted to accept responsibility and not fight the case, even after being told by my attorney that they had no case against me. That's why all 19 charges were nollied. Every single charge was nollied. I pled guilty to a substitute charge. There was no police report or arrest warrant affidavit for that charge. But guess what? I knew I was guilty of that charge. So I agreed, you know what? I'm going to plead guilty and accept responsibility. That's what this board has taught me. If I make a mistake, be a man and accept responsibility and face up to it and move forward and try to change, try to get better. And I'm continuing to do that. I faltered. I got into that relationship. It won't happen again. It will not happen again. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your statement. I will note that the PED date on the new sentence that had passed for 3/16 of 2023. The new sentence end date is 3/17, 2026, with a special parole term end date of 7/4, 2027. So I just do want to put those dates on the record before I make my recommendation. So I have listened to all the testimony, reviewed all the mitigating evidence that I have received from the attorney's office. I have reviewed all the evidence from the state. I do want to put on the record that there are 4 prior violations since you started special parole supervision in May of 2014. You were last out there for about a period of 10 months. From your last reinstatement to when you returned to custody for these new charges in which you were convicted of the 3 counts of promoting prostitution third and received a 6-year jail sentence. There was also a failure to appear conviction as well on that 10/18/21 date that you were sentenced. And I do see you with 5 years of probation to follow your sentence as well. So this is technically your 5th parole violation on special parole. So I also see on the SCO tips that you did score out high risk before the last time that you were assessed. As well as you have a history of sexual and violent offenses. I do understand what you're saying with mitigating that it was, I understand this wasn't some time ago. But there still is that history that I do want to put on the record.
Could I make one more comment?
If you'd like to.
Yes. On January 7th of 2022, when I was auto revoked, that auto revoke was illegal because I wasn't supposed to be auto revoked. I was supposed to receive a revocation hearing twice. First in 2020, when I was remanded just for failure to report, I didn't receive that revocation. And then again, after I pled out and tried to accept responsibility in 2021, I didn't receive the revocation. I got a memo right here that I was getting my revocation hearing on December 14th of 2021, and I didn't receive that. Okay. My attorney, public defender, asked for a continuance, didn't even notify me. It shouldn't have been continued. I should have received that revocation. She asked that it be continued. They continued to December 14th, and then I never got that. And no continuance was issued. No continuance was requested or issued. So I should have received that hearing. Then when I was auto revoked via a letter by Ruth Muniz on January 7th saying that I was auto revoked, the board made a decision to see me at 50% of my new sentence. When they didn't have to. The board could have seen me at 85 and said, you're 85 because you're on special parole for a violent crime. So the board made a decision, you know what, he's suitable for release at 50% because he has no history of violence. Or maybe not that I was suitable, but the board agreed that I should be seen at 50% in light of all the circumstances at the time. And then when Rufaro Berry auto revoked me via the special parole minimus, on January 7th, 2022, she put period of confinement until August 8th of 2023, which was the 50% mark of my new sentence. And it said, if this date falls on Saturday, Sunday, or legal release shall be on the last business day. So an administrative decision was made because my charge is a nonviolent deed felony. I was out for 7.5 years on special parole without getting convicted of a crime. And I've gone 20
I understand
years.
what you're saying. I'm just putting the record, you do have a history of sexual and violent offenses. It's in your history. I'm not saying you are in on a violent offense. I'm saying this is in your history.
Yeah, I'm just asking to be treated fairly. All I'm asking is to be treated fairly.
That's why we're here. So.
All right, thank you.
So what I'm gonna do now, so based on the evidence I've received from the state, based on testimony I've listened to, is I'm just gonna make a recommendation and then I'm gonna hand it over to the board. So I am going to recommend that parole be revoked and that you serve the 7 years and 3.5 month period confinement as a sanction with no new parole date. If you do get a re-parole date, I recommend the following parole conditions: no consumption of alcoholic beverages, behavior management program for domestic violence, no contact with victims of your offense, halfway house placement, mental health treatment, and problem sexual behavior treatment. So I'm going to turn the hearing over to the panel chair.
John. Okay, do you understand the recommendation of the hearing examiner?
Yes, I understand the recommendation, but I don't understand it because I've done everything that I could over this 4 years. I've accepted responsibility. I've done all 4 programs. I'm in college, about to graduate college. I have no tickets in almost 3 years. In the last 35 months, no disciplinary reports. I have a job as a janitor. I've been working for 2 years. I'm a model inmate. I respect all staff and treat them with nothing but respect and courtesy every day. And I'm looking forward to finishing college and going back to work, maybe for the same company. I'm not going to come back. I'm not going to come back. And I need the support of parole because the parole officers help me, and Chrysalis Agency and CRD, they provide you with so much help. I need that support to transition. That's all I'm asking. I'm getting out anyway. I'll get out anyway, but I'm asking to be re-paroled to my special parole so I can access the support. I'm homeless. I don't have any family. My parents are dead. Both my parents are dead. And my brother lives in Alabama.
And just briefly, I apologize for interjecting. I would ask that given the circumstances, just abiding by the policies concerning revocations and
Attorney Mortimer, I want to note for the record that you're citing an outdated Board of Pardons and Parole special parole policy. From a previous administration, I would encourage you to obtain a copy of the new policy, which is in line with the statutes of the state of Connecticut and allows for revocation up to the end of the term of special parole.
Certainly, but given Mr. Varchetta's needs, I would ask that he be afforded that grace. Thank you.
One of the reasons I'm asking is my hernia surgery. I desperately need it. And I had it done previously on the right side at Norwich Bacchus Hospital. Now it's on the left side, and it's been three years I've been walking around with it, and I can't get it done at UConn. I'm terrified to get it done at UConn. And if I get re-paroled and I'm allowed to just transition to the community, I'll be able to get the surgery from a halfway house. Because let's face it, I'm getting released anyway. In 3 years, I'm going to be released anyway to probation. But if I can get re-paroled at some point to my remaining special parole, not today, doesn't have to be today, doesn't have to be next month, or even the end of this year. It could be the end of this year, next year. If I get re-paroled and transition, I
Mr. Varchetta, and I hate to interrupt, but you understand you had a parole hearing on this case, the discretionary parole hearing. You were denied that parole. You were denied until the end of that sentence, which is March 17th, 2026. Do you understand that?
Yes, I understand that. I understand I had that hearing.
So there's no way for us to parole you at the end of this year. You've been denied on this current offense, promoting prostitution. Do you understand that?
Yeah, I understand I was denied. Okay. What I would like to say is Why would the state, the parole board of all people, the ones that encouraged me and motivated me to change and not commit crimes, crucify me and vilify me now after all this hard work I've done to turn my life around and stop committing violent crimes? Alienate me now and crush me and tear me apart and tear me down when I'm already fragile and vulnerable. I've been attacked twice. I'm suffering from an inguinal hernia. I'm 64 years old and I need help. I've already been punished. Coming to prison was the punishment for my misconduct. I've done over 4 years. It's been 4 years and 4 months. I was eligible to be re-paroled last August, and Rufaro Berry signed saying period of confinement until August 8, 22. That was on paper. I was supposed to be released at that hearing last June and given that date, given a 8/8/23 re-parole date, and I wasn't. I understand that. It didn't happen. I accept that. It didn't happen. Now it's been another year, and in this year, I've taken more college courses. I've not gotten a disciplinary report. I understand my misconduct was horrible. I should have never did what I did. I should have helped that woman get off of drugs and stop prostituting. If I could go back in time, that's what I would have did. That's what I would have did. I thought about it. I tried, but she had no ID. Someone stole her ID. She had warrants for her arrest. I didn't know how.
Would you like me to answer your question, sir? I believe your question started off as, why would the parole board deny you parole and not put you back out after all the hard work you've done? Would you like my answer?
I just want to clarify. I'm asking for simple, some compassion and being treated like a human being, not a monster, because I'm not a monster. I'm not a monster. Okay? And this isn't personal. This isn't personal. I'm asking to be treated. I've seen guys get re-paroled with home invasion, robbery, assault, where they've shot somebody or carjacked, and I see they make parole. I'm in here for promoting prostitution, 3rd degree, a level 1 offense. It's a level 1 offense. I'm not mitigating it. I'm not minimizing it, but it's a level 1 offense. It's not a violent crime. And I've done over 4 years of a 6-year sentence. I need help. I need surgery, and I need housing, and I need assistance from agencies like Chrysalis and CRD. I'm just asking to transition as I've been allowed to in the past. That's all I'm asking. Just for this one last chance. My life is almost, I'm 64 years old. I could die. And I don't even know if I'm going to make it 3 more years. I have chronic kidney disease, and this inguinal hernia is serious. I don't want to die in prison. And if I'm re-paroled, I'm just going to be getting out a few months sooner than I was going to get out anyway. I'm getting out in 36 months anyway, no matter what. So if I get re-paroled to my special parole, it's just going to allow me to transition and get the help I need, get the medical help I need, and get my life back together, try to piece my life back together after doing 4 or 5 years. It's going to allow me to piece my life back together so I can get things back on track. That's why I'm asking for re-parole, to access the resources that are available as I have in the past. These agencies have helped me incredibly in the past, and the parole officers. My parole officer was more than a parole officer. He took an interest in me. He cared about me. That's all. I want to reaccess that help, that support. That's what I'm asking. I know I'm asking a lot with this record, with my record and all these technical violations. I know I'm asking a lot, and I know you're not inclined to do it. I know that, but I'm working so hard. Even on this 4-year sentence, I took all 4 programs and completed them. I stopped getting tickets. I don't have a ticket in 35 months. And the 2 tickets I did get, I was attacked. I had to fight. I didn't have a choice. I had to defend myself. I'm 64 years old. One of them was on camera. The second one in August of 22, 21. That was on camera while I was a care worker working, serving food at Walker. So that wasn't my fault. I just had to defend myself. But after that, that's when I did a really hard look at myself and the situation that I was in, coming back to prison again. You know, I totally understand. The board is looking at me as the boy who cried wolf. I'm the boy who cried wolf. This guy, we keep giving this guy a chance. He gets out, he gets in trouble again and comes back. He promises he's going to do better. He's not going to do it again. We let him out again. He's out for a period of time and he comes back again. He commits misconduct again, comes again. We let him out again and he comes back again. But I want to be honest with the board. I have some minor issues with some minor disorders that there's no medication for, that I struggle with, and I struggled and got my substance addiction under control. I was clean and sober, working for a company, no driving while intoxicated or DWI tickets. I stayed clean and sober. I was getting tested regularly. I only failed 1 urine test in that period. That whole period I was out, I failed 1 urine test. So I was able to get my addiction under control. And that was with the support of CRT. I had a relapse prevention counselor that I saw every week. That was incredible. I can do it again. Not only can I do it again, I'll be better this time because I have to prove to you. I have to prove to you and myself and the community that I can do better. I've even been reading a book on how to start a nonprofit. My dream is to get out and give back to the community. I want to start a nonprofit. I want to go to my high school in Weatherfield and speak to the youth and tell them what I've been through, the mistakes I made, the dangers of using fentanyl, to try to help stop somebody's overdose of fentanyl. I almost died from it. I tried it one time, a $5 bag of fentanyl, and it killed me. My heart stopped. The paramedics saved my life. And the police and paramedics in East Hartford saved my life. Brought me to Hartford Hospital. I woke up in the hospital. Where am I? What happened? They said you overdosed on fentanyl. And I want to tell the youth about the dangers of crime, of getting involved in crime, how going to prison can ruin your life. It ruined mine almost. But it's not over. I still have a chance. I want to try to do something because I'm grateful for all these chances that I've been given. The mistake I made, I didn't protect the ground that I gained. I made all this ground, changed my life, did a 180, turned my life around, stopped committing crimes. And I wasn't committed enough to the ground that I gained. I didn't protect that ground. I should have protected that ground I gained and made better choices. And that's what I'm going to do this, and that's going to be the difference this time. I'm going to stay committed to the ground that I gained this time and make the right choices. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Barchetta, the board recognizes the progress that you made through programming inside the facility as well as while you were out in the community. I do want to remind you, you spoke a lot about second chances. You of all people should know that the Board of Pardons and Paroles is all about second chances. We give people second chances all the time. You've had more than your second chance. This is your 5th violation on this period of special parole alone. You've had 11 opportunities overall in the community that you've failed. Your record goes back to the 70s. It's very disturbing. You said yourself, you're a repeat sex offender. And our number one goal, despite the second chances that we strongly believe in, is public safety. We have to protect the community from offenders. And you keep repeating the same mistakes over and over. You have minimized your actions. I gave you a chance to speak. It's my turn to speak. You have minimized your actions because, and I quoted you, you said you made a mistake, the mistake of getting involved with a prostitute. That wasn't your mistake. Your mistake was the behavior that you exhibited while in that relationship. You're minimizing your actions. You didn't show any remorse for the victims. We heard a lot about Mr. Barchetta and what Mr. Barchetta needs. But what about all of the damage that you've done to so many victims over decades. You didn't speak much about them. We listened to you. We appreciate your testimony here today. And we also do appreciate the progress that you believe you've made. Sometimes that progress just isn't enough. At some point, we have to say public safety is more important. I'm going to accept the recommendation from the hearing examiner. Ms. Palmieri, do you accept it or reject it?
I accept.
Ms. Turner?
I accept.
In the matter of Anthony Barchetta Jr., inmate number 071190, I'll make a motion to accept the recommendation from the hearing examiner and revoke special parole with no new date. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for your presentation here today.
Jennifer.
We wish you the best.
Jennifer, can I say one last thing, please? Jennifer, why did you ask me to withdraw all my civil actions?
We're done.
Why
So
did
this
they
was
ask me
the
to
hearing,
withdraw
and now
if you were
gonna
going to
go
do
off
the
the
same
record.
thing?
We're all set, sir. Your hearing has been concluded.
Just to do the same thing
Thank
to
you to
me?
everybody.
Boom! A mic drop by Jennifer. It's not every day we get to have mic drops by the Connecticut Parole Board, but this was beautiful. And I would like to replay the part of that statement every time we see them make an insane decision, which is our number one goal is public safety. We have to protect the community. Jennifer, if only you guys could actually abide by that goal more often, we would love you. But this was beautiful. I mean, I don't know who performed worse. Was it the roach with, of course, his necklace, which is basically a big giant sign that says, "Hi everyone, I commit crimes of sexual nature," and I know all of you. I think we've only seen one person wearing that the crucifix necklace in all the hearings we've covered that didn't have a jacket full of those kinds of crimes. It's just the pattern. And so who performed worse, him or his attorney? It was both bad. I mean, his attorney was atrocious. He would have been far better off taking a public defender. The public defenders in Connecticut, if you've seen the revocation hearings, are actually very, very impressive. All of them are, and there's one specific standout. What's his name? Agaletti. I mean, this attorney, to show up and to read an outdated bylaws of parole, that is inexcusable. This guy, I don't think you can file habeas corpus appeals for revocation hearings. Maybe you can, but if he can, he's gonna be filing one because he should. This was atrocious. It was awful. Maybe he specifically went after some random attorney off the shelf, closest role. I don't know who this guy is, but he has no idea about the process. He has no familiarity, as you can clearly see. And even then, he came there with a document that was outdated, which is inexcusable because literally it would have taken just few minutes to figure that out. And he lets his clients speak and speak and speak and really just dig a hole deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And his attorney was his one job, which would be not to let him continue digging that hole. He just watches as he digs and digs and digs. And the parole board is watching as he digs and digs and digs. It was kind of perfect the way that he just spoke 90% of the time, and he was just shut down in like a 2-minute mic drop by Jennifer. He's talking about his violations being technical violations. I know one of the violations Richard found is that he absconded to Florida. He's like, "Oh, it's just technical violations. I didn't do anything wrong." Yeah, running to a different state while on parole. That's not doing anything wrong. And I can't show you this full article, but I'll read it to you. and it lists an address, and I just don't like to mess around with that stuff. But he was initially, so East Hartford man gets 6 years for promoting prostitution, and it goes into the details of what it is that he did. So he is like he was classic. He's an evil man. He is, and we'll go through that. So he took a plea deal, by the way, on this. So he was initially charged with trafficking in persons, among the most serious crimes short of murder in Connecticut. So he's charged with something that could have gotten him, I think, life in prison. He pled, of course, he took a plea deal because that's what they do, to third-degree promoting prostitution, and he was sentenced to 6 years in prison. Now, he lived in a rooming house at the time of the crime, February 2020. And it says he'll be up for probation 5 years after release from prison. He will face up to 6 more years behind bars if he violates probation. Barchetta accepted a plea bargain Monday in Hartford Superior Court. He was convicted of the promoting prostitution count under the Alford Doctrine, meaning he didn't have to admit guilt, but acknowledged the prosecution had enough evidence conviction at trial. But he admitted he was guilty of failing to appear in court for a misdemeanor assault and disorderly conduct case that East Hartford police had filed against him on March 10th, 2020, the first day of the investigation. The 4 trafficking in person counts filed against him in 5 months later each could have carried up to, now I can share the screen with you. So let's see. Now I can do it. In person counts filed against him 5 months later each could have carried up to 25 years in prison. Barchetta was also charged with numerous other crimes, including several carrying up to 20 years in prison. He was held on $770,000 bond. Police learned of the situation when the woman, then 23 years old, approached. And remember how he described her? I thought he said 25-year-old, but I met this beautiful blonde and we fell in love. It was like, I mean, what an idiotic thing to say. You're locked up for prostitution, you fool. He then, 23, approached a police officer working a private duty job on Main Street. So they learned the situation when she approached a police officer working a private duty job on Main Street in the early afternoon of March 10th, 2020. According to the affidavit supporting his arrest, which provided the following details. When the woman made comment indicating she was a human trafficking victim, the officer called investigator Courtney Disselett, who came out in plain clothes and an unmarked vehicle. So it's my understanding that he was a police officer working private job. So I don't know, would he be in uniform working private job? Maybe if he's hired by a school or something. So she goes to him and says, hey, I need help. He calls the plainclothes detective. She shows up. Now, prostitution. Defendant Anthony George. Oh, shoot. It does show an address here. Gosh darn it. All right. I'll just block that out for the editing, but I'm going to take it off the screen because it shows an address. I hate that. I hate it. It's just not something you mess around with YouTube. YouTube can hit you with anything, and it's just not worth it. Okay, defendant Anthony George Barchetta, 61, who lived in a rooming house. Conviction of 3 counts of third-degree promoting prostitution, 1 count of second-degree failure to appear in court. So it reported that the woman told her. Okay, now I can share it again. Reported that the woman told her that he had repeatedly slapped her in the head and face after she received a phone call from a male friend. The woman said that she asked her friend to pick her up because Barchetta set up a date for her and she didn't want to have sex with the client. During the assault, the woman told the officer the trick, called to say he was in front of their room house. She said she offered to go down and get him, but actually used that as an excuse to escape. So she really didn't want to be with this trick, and she ran. While Desolate was speaking with the woman in Main Street Donut Shop, Barchetta walked in and approached them, telling the woman, "You're coming with me." So he comes down while she's talking to the undercover cop. He doesn't know that the undercover cop is there. And he says, "You're coming with me," and trying to grab her. At that point, the investigator reported that she identified herself as a police officer, and then he tried to run. How beautiful is this catch? So he sends her down. She goes, talks to the cop. The cop gets the undercover cop. He comes down and sees her, runs in to try to grab her, but meanwhile, he doesn't know there's an undercover cop right there. And I love that it's a woman that gets him. Cherry on the top. So she identifies herself as a police officer. He tries to run away, but his car was blocked in by the officer the woman had approached initially. So that cop is watching this happen. He's smart. He's on his toes. He pulls in and blocks the car when it comes. Give him props for that quick thinking. That's when he was arrested on misdemeanor charges. The woman later told police that she had been addicted to narcotics since she was 16 and had been living on the street in Hartford when she met him about 1.5 months earlier while she was engaging in prostitution. And remember how he describes it? "I couldn't be on electronics and I got lonely, so I wanted to date." And that's how it's like, oh. Also the whole college thing, how he's like 2 credits away from the degree. It's like, I'm sure you are, buddy. I'm sure you are. She said she agreed to have sex with him for money, which she said eventually evolved into him becoming her boyfriend because she was desperate for a place to live. She said she initially resisted his demands that she allow him to advertise her prostitution services online, but eventually gave in because she was afraid of ending up back on the street. She said he was only supplying her with, he was also supplying her with a powerful opioid, fentanyl. I remember what he was talking about. He's like, I've only tried fentanyl once, and I'm reading a book about starting a not-for-profit, and I'm going to get the not-for-profit and talk about fentanyl. It's like, here he is, of course, doing what men of his crime do, is feeding her fentanyl. And yeah, that's kind of it. There were a couple other things Richard found, which were appeals that he had from his previous convictions, including where he filed habeas corpus against his attorneys for not doing the proper job. He has a record of doing that. That's always the desperate appeal, though. He has his convictions that we know about for the 1998 sexual assault. And he has another one. Let's see, to the spreadsheet that Richard has here on him. So convicted 10/9/1998 and 2 sexual assault firsts, released 12/2/1998, so 2 months later, and convicted then 7/8/2003 on 2 counts of sexual assault first. So he has two in his jacket that we know of. Part of that, so in the appeal, there was one piece of information that basically that sexual assault came from. He was in a rehab center, and there's a woman in the rehab center, and they had met for a week, and they had become friends. And she claims that he forced herself on her, and she immediately went to the detectives and told them what happened. And his attorney told him, well, hey, your defense can be basically your word against hers, because there is a defense here, your word against hers, because she's not a stranger, she was a friend. And yeah, I think he lost. Was it in trial? I think it was in trial. Anyways, but it's kind of funny. Just everything that he says, it was so ridiculous. But it was really really nice to see that him quickly get rejected. And what is it? It's not even that much time. The way he was talking, it was as if he was getting a life sentence. His full term date is he's getting released 7/4/2027. So at the time of the hearing, it's 3 years. Anyways, I'm glad that he has no more chance. He's got 3 more years. He'll get out. And we'll see what happens after that. Maybe he'll finally get his 2 credits that he needs to get his degree, and he'll do all that wonderful stuff he has planned. And thank you, Richard, for the info. With that, I'll let you go.